The great hall of Nexus Prime stretched wide enough to hold 1,000 ships. Today it held something more precious. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy sat in their designated places, watching the humans below. Taeyang stood at the center platform, his hands steady despite the weight of what was coming. Behind him, Hana kept her military posture perfect. Minho clutched his data device with all the proof they had gathered. Jiwon watched from the back row, her heart beating fast. Taeyang had practiced this speech 100 times. He spoke clearly about Earth and its people. He told them how humans had grown from fighting each other to working together. He showed images of cities that touched the clouds and machines that healed the sick. He played music that made some aliens lean forward with interest. He shared stories of human courage and kindness. The presentation took 2 hours. When it ended, Taeyang felt hope rising in his chest. Surely they would see that humanity deserved a chance. Then the laughter started. It began with the Vrix delegate, a creature that looked like a giant insect covered in sharp armor. Its clicking sounds echoed through the hall. Other species joined in. The lumens, beings made of living crystal, flashed colors that G1's translator marked as mockery. The massive Thorians, each one bigger than 3 humans combined, made rumbling sounds from deep in their chests. Chancellor Vex rose from his seat at the head of the council. He was tall and thin, with skin like silver metal and eyes that glowed red. His voice carried authority that made even the laughter stop. "Humans," Vex said slowly, tasting the word like something bitter. "You come before us with pride, showing us toys and calling them achievements. You have barely left your own planet. Your fastest ships take years to cross distances we travel in days. Your people live such short lives that you barely have time to learn wisdom." Taeyang tried to respond, but Vex raised one hand for silence. "Your history is written in blood," the Chancellor continued. "You fought wars that killed millions of your own kind. You poisoned your own world and nearly destroyed it. Even now you argue among yourselves about simple matters. You are children playing with fire, and you ask us to welcome you as equals." The Thorian representative stood, making the floor shake slightly. "Humans are weak," he declared in a voice like thunder. "Their bodies break easily. They cannot survive in most environments without machines. They are prey animals that somehow developed intelligence but remained prey in their hearts." More voices joined in, each adding another reason why humanity should be rejected. Too emotional, too aggressive, too unpredictable, too primitive. The words piled up like stones, building a wall between Earth and the rest of the galaxy. Hana's hand moved toward her sidearm before she caught herself. She was a soldier, trained to face enemies, but she could do nothing here. Minho stared at his device, all his carefully prepared data suddenly meaningless. Taeyang felt something break inside him, but he kept his face calm. Chancellor Vex delivered the final judgment. "The Galactic Council has reached its decision. Humanity is denied membership. Furthermore, you are forbidden from leaving your solar system. You will remain in quarantine until you prove yourselves worthy. Return in 1,000 of your years if your species still exists. Perhaps by then you will have grown up." The gavel came down. The sound felt like a door slamming shut on humanity's future. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. The delegation's ship felt too quiet. Taeyang spent hours staring out at the stars, wondering what he could have done differently. Hana ran combat drills alone in the training room, pushing herself until exhaustion dulled her anger. Minho reviewed every second of the council meeting, searching for what went wrong. Only Jiwon kept working. She watched the recordings over and over, not of the rejection itself, but of the moments before. She noticed small things. The way the Thorian delegate's eyes narrowed when Taeyang mentioned human determination. How the Mindari representative, one of the telepathic species, had quickly shielded their thoughts during certain parts of the speech. The slight tension in Chancellor Vex's posture when Minho displayed human technological progress. On the final day of the journey, Jiwon brought her findings to Taeyang. He looked tired, older than when they had left Earth months ago. "Ambassador, I need you to see something," she said quietly. She showed him the recordings, pointing out each small detail. At first, Taeyang did not understand. Then slowly, his eyes widened. "They were afraid," he whispered. "Yes," Jiwon confirmed. "Under all that mockery and contempt, there was fear. They saw something in us that worried them." Taeyang called Hana and Minho to his quarters. They watched the recordings together. The pattern became clear once you knew to look for it. The most aggressive rejections came from the strongest species, the ones who ruled the council. the ones who had the most to lose if the order changed. They did not reject us because we are weak, Minho said slowly, understanding dawning. They rejected us because we might become strong. The quarantine is not punishment, Hana added, her tactical mind seeing the strategy. It is containment. They want to keep us locked away until we give up or destroy ourselves. Taeyang stood and looked at his team. The weight of failure was still there, but now it mixed with something else. Determination. Then we must show them they made a mistake, he said quietly. Not with words this time. With actions. The ship arrived at Earth orbit 2 days later. News of the rejection had already spread. People gathered in streets and public spaces, waiting for their leaders to speak. Some cried. Others shouted in anger. Many simply stood in stunned silence. President Daiho called an emergency session of the World Council. Representatives from every nation gathered in the Great Chamber in Geneva. Taeyang presented not just the rejection, but also Jiwon's discovery. The debate lasted 3 days. Some argued for compliance. Why fight when the odds seemed impossible? Others wanted revenge, to build weapons and strike back. But slowly a third path emerged. On the 4th day, President Daiho addressed the world. His message was simple. Humanity would not accept the Council's judgment. They would not wait 1,000 years. They would not hide in their solar system like punished children. Instead, Earth would prove its worth through action. We will build ships that can travel farther and faster than anything the galaxy has seen, Daiho declared. We will reach out to other species with friendship and cooperation. We will show the universe that humanity deserves a place among the stars, not because we demand it, because we have earned it. The speech ended with a promise. Earth would return to the Galactic Council. But next time the Council would beg humanity to join. Across the planet, factories retooled for space construction. Research centers focused on faster-than-light travel. Military academies began training officers for deep space. Artists and musicians prepared to show human culture to alien minds. Scientists worked on solutions to problems they did not yet fully understand. The rejection that was meant to contain humanity had instead ignited something far more dangerous to the established order. Hope combined with determination, an entire species united by a single purpose. They would show the galaxy what humans could do. Or suicide. 6 months after the rejection, Earth had transformed into something new. Every major city now had construction yards that reached toward the sky. The orbital stations around the planet doubled in size, then tripled. Ships carried materials up from the surface every hour. The night sky glowed with welding torches and construction lights. Minho led the scientific revolution from a research facility in Geneva. His team worked day and night on the faster-than-light problem. The aliens used drives that bent space itself, creating bubbles that moved through reality. But human minds approached the challenge differently. What if we do not bend space? Minho asked his team one morning. What if we step outside of it completely? The idea seemed crazy at first, but the more they explored it, the more possible it became. Quantum mechanics suggested that reality had layers, dimensions beyond the 3 humans normally experienced. If a ship could phase into one of those dimensions, it could bypass normal space entirely. Travel that took years might take only days or hours. The breakthrough came on a cold January night. Minho was alone in the lab, running his 1,000th simulation. This time the numbers aligned. The quantum displacement field stabilized. A ship could theoretically shift between dimensions while maintaining structural integrity. He called his team immediately. They verified the calculations, then ran them again. By morning, they had confirmed it. Humanity had discovered a completely new form of faster-than-light travel, one that the Galactic Council had never imagined. In orbit above Earth, Suji oversaw the construction of the first fleet. She was an engineer who had designed bridges and towers before the rejection. Now she built vessels that would carry humanity to the stars. The ships took shape slowly, piece by piece. The design combined human innovation with careful study of alien principles. The hulls used new materials that could withstand extreme stress. The engines incorporated Minho's quantum displacement technology. Every system had backups, and every backup had backups. These ships would not fail. Suji personally inspected every weld and circuit. She knew that lives would depend on her work. When workers got tired, she reminded them what they were building. Not just ships, hope, a future where humanity walked among equals. The first ship, named Determination, took 8 months to complete. The second and third went faster as the construction teams learned. By the end of the second year, 12 ships floated in orbit, ready for their crews. While engineers built ships and scientists solved impossible problems, Hana trained the people who would take humanity to the stars. She established the Space Force Academy in Colorado, high in the mountains where the air was thin and the training was harder. The candidates came from every nation and background. Military officers looking for new challenges, civilian pilots who dreamed of flying among the stars, scientists wanting to explore, diplomats hoping to build bridges. Hana evaluated them all with the same critical eye. Space will not care about your rank or your degrees, she told every new class. It will test you in ways Earth never could. You must be smart, strong, and adaptable, but most importantly, you must work together. One person cannot survive out there alone. Among the recruits, certain individuals stood out. Kyung-soo had been a Navy tactical officer before joining the academy. He thought 3 steps ahead in every simulation and never made the same mistake twice. Hana promoted him quickly, recognizing a natural strategist. Yuna came from a family of pilots. She had flown everything from small planes to massive cargo jets. In the new training ships, she moved like the vessel was part of her body. She broke every speed record, then broke them again. Other pilots watched her flights and tried to copy her techniques. Junho arrived at the academy as a doctor specializing in emergency medicine. He had worked in the worst disaster zones on Earth and never lost his calm. When Hana asked why he wanted to go to space, his answer was simple. People will get hurt out there. They will need someone who can help. While Earth prepared openly, Taeyang worked in secret. The Galactic Council had rejected humanity's official petition, but that did not mean all contact was impossible. Many species existed outside the Council's direct control, some by choice, others because the Council ignored them. Taeyang used hidden communication channels to reach out. He sent messages to the Sylvans, a peaceful species confined to their forest worlds because the Council saw no value in them. He contacted the Drifters, nomadic people who traveled the galaxy in ancient ships, never welcome to settle anywhere permanently. He spoke with the Melodians, artists whose culture the Council dismissed as useless. His message to all of them was the same. Humanity understood what it meant to be rejected, to be told you were not good enough, to watch others enjoy freedoms denied to you. But rejection did not have to be the end. It could be a beginning. Slowly, carefully, responses came back. The Sylvans expressed interest in human agricultural techniques. The Drifters shared navigation charts of regions the Council rarely patrolled. The Melodians sent music composed for human ears, a gesture of friendship across the void. 3 years after the rejection, Earth was ready. The fleet floated in perfect formation above the planet. 12 ships, each one a masterpiece of engineering and determination. The crews had trained until they moved as one unit. The quantum displacement engines had been tested and retested. President Daeho stood in the World Council chamber for what might be the last time. His term would end soon, but this decision would define his legacy. He looked at the faces around him, leaders from every nation on Earth. They had worked together for 3 years toward this moment. The fleet is ready, he said simply. The crews are prepared. The technology works. All that remains is the decision. Do we launch? Or do we accept the Council's judgment and remain in our solar system forever? No one spoke for a long moment. Then the representative from Brazil stood. We launch. The delegate from China agreed. We launch. One by one, every representative voted the same way. The decision was unanimous. Daeho sent the authorization code. In orbit, Hana received it aboard determination. She was now Admiral Hana, commander of humanity's first deep space fleet. Kyung-soo stood at the tactical station. Yuna waited at the helm. Junho checked his medical bay one final time. Before giving the order to depart, Hana broadcast a message. It went to every corner of the galaxy, to the Galactic Council and beyond. Her words were simple and clear. This is Admiral Hana of the Earth Fleet. 3 years ago, your council told us we were not worthy to join galactic civilization. You forbade us from leaving our star system. You expected us to accept your judgment and fade into obscurity. She paused, letting the words carry across space. We reject your judgment. Today, humanity leaves Earth to take its place among the stars. Not as conquerors, not as beggars, as equals. We will explore. We will learn. We will help those who need help. And we will show you that your council does not speak for the entire galaxy. Another pause. You said to return in 1,000 years. We will see you much sooner than that. Hana closed the channel and turned to her crew. Take us out. Yuna's hands moved across her controls. The 12 ships began to move as one, accelerating away from Earth. They passed the Moon, then Mars, heading toward the edge of the solar system. Behind them, billions of humans watched and hoped. On Nexus Prime, Chancellor Vex received the message. He listened to Hana's words with growing anger. How dare these primitives defy the Council? He immediately ordered a response. Send the Thorian fleet to the edge of human space, he commanded. Any ship that attempts to leave their system is to be destroyed immediately. Show these humans the price of disobedience. The Thorian fleet was the Council's hammer. 50 massive warships, each one capable of destroying a planet. They moved into position at the boundary of Earth's solar system, forming a wall of metal and weapons. Admiral Garrick commanded them, confident and ready. Let the humans come, he told his officers. We will crush them and remind the galaxy why the Council's word is law. The trap was set. Two forces moved toward confrontation. One representing the old order, certain of its power. The other representing something new, untested but determined. In 7 days they would meet. The galaxy would learn whether humanity's defiance was courage. The Thorian blockade stretched across space like a steel curtain. 50 warships, each larger than any human vessel, waited in perfect formation. Their weapon systems glowed with ready power. Plasma cannons that could melt asteroids, gravity wells that could crush ships like tin cans, energy shields strong enough to withstand nuclear explosions. Admiral Garrick sat on the bridge of his flagship, watching his displays with satisfaction. The humans would arrive soon. Their primitive vessels would try to run the blockade. Then his fleet would destroy them, and this foolish rebellion would end before it truly began. Sir, we are detecting the human fleet, his sensor officer reported. 12 vessels approaching at standard speed. They will reach our position in 2 hours. Garrick smiled, showing teeth designed for tearing meat. Good, charge all weapons. When they enter range, I want every gun ready to fire. We will make this quick. On the Bridge of Determination, Hana watched the same display from the opposite side. The Thorian fleet was exactly where intelligence said it would be. Exactly as predictable as she had hoped. All ships report ready, Kyung-soo announced from tactical. Quantum displacement drives are charged and standing by. Yuna kept her hands steady on the helm controls. This would be the most important flight of her life. One mistake, one miscalculation, and they would all die. But she had trained for this. She was ready. Open a channel to the Thorian flagship, Hana ordered. Admiral Garrick's face appeared on the screen. He looked pleased with himself, certain of victory. Humans, he said in his rumbling voice, you have violated the Council's quarantine. Surrender now and return to your world. This is your only chance, Hana met his gaze without fear. We do not recognize the Council's authority to imprison us. Move aside or we will pass through you. Garrick laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Pass through us? Foolish creatures. You cannot even understand the power you face. Your little ships will be destroyed before you fire a single shot. This is your last warning. Surrender or die. Then we choose neither, Hana replied calmly. She closed the channel and turned to her crew. All ships execute breach pattern on my mark. Yuna, get us through. The human fleet accelerated directly toward the Thorian line. It looked like suicide. 12 small ships charging toward 50 massive warships. Garrick watched in amazement. Were they really this stupid? All ships, open fire! He roared. The space between the two fleets lit up with weapons fire. Plasma bolts streaked toward the human ships. Gravity wells formed, trying to trap them. Energy beams powerful enough to cut through metal reached out like fingers of death. Now, Hana commanded. Every human ship activated its quantum displacement drive at the same instant. Reality twisted around them. To the Thorian sensors, it looked like the human vessels simply vanished. The plasma bolts hit empty space. The gravity wells closed on nothing. The energy beams passed through the positions where ships had been milliseconds before. For one heartbeat, the human fleet existed in another dimension. Yuna felt strange, like her body was in 2 places at once. The ship groaned under the stress, but Suji's engineering held. Then reality snapped back, and they emerged on the far side of the blockade. All 12 ships appeared behind the Thorian line, intact and undamaged. The maneuver had worked perfectly. On his flagship, Garrick stared at his displays in shock. Impossible. No species had technology like this. The Thorians had the best sensors in the galaxy, and they had detected nothing. No energy signature, no spatial distortion. The humans had simply disappeared and reappeared. Pursue them, he shouted, rage replacing shock. All ships come about. Do not let them escape. The massive Thorian vessels began to turn, but they were built for power, not speed. By the time they completed their turn, the human ships were already far ahead. Admiral, they are accelerating to faster-than-light speeds, the sensor officer reported. Their drives are using quantum pathways we have never seen before. We cannot follow that trajectory. Garrick slammed his fist against his command chair. The humans had outsmarted him. Worse, they had made him look like a fool. His perfect blockade had been useless. Aboard Determination, the crew erupted in celebration. They had done it. They had beaten a fleet 50 times their size without firing a shot. Yuna's hands were shaking from the adrenaline. Kyungsoo was grinning like a child. Even Hana allowed herself a small smile. Well done, everyone, Hana said over the fleet channel. But this was just the first test. The real work begins now. Set course for the coordinates Ambassador Taeyang provided. We have friends to meet. News of the breakthrough spread across the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. The communication networks lit up with the story. Humans had defied the Galactic Council. Humans had passed through a Thorian blockade like it was not there. Humans had technology that nobody had seen before. On the Sylvan homeworld, the elders gathered to watch recordings of the event. They had suffered under Council neglect for generations. Watching humans break free gave them hope they had thought lost. In the drifter fleet, captains shared the news from ship to ship. For centuries, they had wandered, always at the mercy of Council decisions. Now they saw that the Council's power was not absolute. The Melodians composed instant songs about the breakthrough. Their music carried emotion across species barriers, joy, hope, the feeling that change was possible. On Nexus Prime, Chancellor Vex called an emergency session. The council chamber filled with angry voices. How had the humans developed such advanced technology? Where had they gotten the knowledge? Who had helped them? This is unacceptable, the Vrix delegate hissed. We must respond with overwhelming force. Send multiple fleets, hunt these humans down and destroy them. But the Lumen representative flashed cautious colors. We do not understand their technology. Sending more ships may result in more failures. We must learn what we face before acting. The Mindari telepath spoke quietly, her mental voice reaching everyone present. I warned you 3 years ago. The humans showed potential that worried me. Now that potential has become reality. They are dangerous not because they fight well, but because they inspire others. Chancellor Vex stood, demanding silence. The Council's authority cannot be questioned. We will find these humans. We will discover the limits of their technology, and we will end this rebellion before it spreads. But in the back of his mind, Vex felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Doubt. The humans had surprised them once. What if they could do it again? 2 weeks after the breakthrough, the human fleet arrived at the coordinates Taeyang had provided. They found a small system with 3 planets, the middle one showing signs of civilization. But something was wrong. The cities were dark. Communication channels were silent. Life signs were faint. This is the Kelnar system, Kyungsoo reported, checking their database. Population of 2 million. They are a peaceful species, known for their art and philosophy. But I am reading almost no activity. Hana made a decision. Send a team down. Medical and science personnel. Find out what happened. Junho led the medical team to the surface. What they found shocked them. The entire planet was dying from a plague. The disease attacked multiple organ systems at once. The Kelnar had begged the Council for help months ago. The Council had sent observers who determined that treatment would be too expensive. The Kelnar were left to die. Junho called Hana immediately. Admiral, we can save them. The disease is complex, but our medicine combined with samples of their biology should work. We need time and resources. Then you have both, Hana replied without hesitation. All ships, standard orbit. Medical teams to the surface. We are not leaving until these people are cured. For 3 weeks, Junho and his teams worked in makeshift hospitals across the planet. They synthesized medicine that combined human drugs with Kelnar biology. They taught local doctors new techniques. They stayed awake for days when necessary, refusing to rest while people suffered. Slowly, the dying began to recover. Children opened their eyes again. Parents held them and cried with relief. Within a month, the plague was gone. The Kelnar had been saved. The Kelnar leader, weak but alive, met with Hana before the fleet departed. "The council left us to die," he said quietly. "You who owe us nothing saved us." "Why?" Hana smiled. "Because we could. Because it was right. And because we want to show the galaxy a different way." "Then we stand with you," the Kelnar leader declared. "Whatever comes, humanity has allies now." The human fleet left Kelnar space with their first official ally. More importantly, they left with proof that their mission was more than defiance. It was about building something better. The galaxy was watching. And slowly hearts were beginning to change. 6 months passed. The human fleet traveled from system to system, always moving, always learning. They discovered that the galaxy was not what the Galactic Council pretended it was. Behind the grand speeches and official declarations lay a darker truth. Many species lived under council rule but gained little from it. They paid heavy taxes for protection that rarely came. They followed strict laws that served the powerful, not the weak. Innovation was discouraged because new ideas threatened the established order. The council maintained peace, yes, but it was the peace of control, not cooperation. Ambassador Taeyang joined the fleet on the ship named Unity. While Hana handled military matters and exploration, Taeyang focused on building relationships. He met with leaders of minor species that the council barely acknowledged. He listened to their problems and offered human assistance where possible. On the Sylvan homeworld, Taeyang walked through forests so ancient that Earth seemed young by comparison. The Sylvan elders gathered around him, their bark-like skin patterned with age rings that told stories of centuries. "For 300 years, raiders have attacked our outer settlements," the eldest told him. "We asked the council for help. They say we must pay for protection. We pay. But the ships they send arrive too late, if they come at all. Our people die while the council collects our taxes." Taeyang brought Suji to the surface. The engineer studied the Sylvan settlements for a week, then presented a plan. "Your forests naturally interfere with sensors," she explained. "We can enhance that. Create a defensive network that uses your trees as living components. Raiders will not be able to target you, and you will not need to depend on the council." The Sylvans were doubtful at first, but Suji worked with their own engineers, combining human technology with Sylvan understanding of their environment. Within 2 months, the first network was complete. When raiders next approached, their weapons could not lock on. Their ships could not navigate the sensor interference. They retreated without landing a single shot. The Sylvan elders called Taeyang back to the forest. "You have given us something we lost long ago," they said. "Security, independence, we want to stand with humanity. Tell us what you need." Meanwhile, Yuna traveled with a small group to meet the drifters. These nomadic people lived in massive generation ships that had sailed through space for thousands of years. They had no homeworld, having lost it to disaster ages past. The council permitted them to exist but gave them no place to settle. Yuna met with their ship captains on one of their ancient vessels. The ship was beautiful in its own way, covered in art and modifications from centuries of travel. But it was also slow and vulnerable. "We drift because we must," a captain named Rethan explained. "Our ships are old. We cannot travel fast enough to claim new territory. We cannot defend ourselves well enough to demand respect. So we wander and accept whatever scraps the council allows us." Yuna smiled. "May I see your engine room?" The drifter engines were ancient but built to last. Yuna saw immediately how they could be improved. Over the following weeks, human engineers worked alongside drifter mechanics. They installed new power systems. They upgraded navigation computers. They taught the drifters techniques for maximizing speed and efficiency. The transformation was dramatic. Ships that had barely managed half light speed now traveled twice as fast. Their sensors improved. Their shields strengthened. Most importantly, the drifters now had the ability to choose where they went, not just accept where they were pushed. Captain Rethan clasped Yuna's hand in the drifter way, palm to palm. "You have given us freedom," he said simply. "We are yours to call upon." One by one, species joined what was becoming a movement. The Melodians offered their communication networks, which reached across the galaxy through means the council did not fully understand. The Kelnar provided medical knowledge from their long history of natural healing. Others contributed resources, safe havens, or simply their voices in support. 8 months after leaving Earth, Taeyang called a gathering. 18 species sent representatives to a neutral space station in unclaimed territory. The station was old, abandoned by the Council years ago as unprofitable. Now it became the birthplace of something new. Taeyang stood before the assembled representatives. Beings of every size, shape, and origin filled the hall. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some had eyes. Others sensed in ways humans could barely understand. But all shared one thing. They were tired of being ignored. "We come from different worlds," Taeyang began. "We have different histories, different needs, different dreams. But we all understand what it means to be told we do not matter. To watch others decide our fates without asking our opinion. To know that the powerful will always serve themselves first." He paused, looking at each representative in turn. "I propose we form an alliance, not to make war, but to build peace. A coalition where every member has equal voice, regardless of military strength or economic power. Where we share technology freely instead of hoarding it. Where we defend each other not for profit, but because it is right." The Sylvan elder stood. "And if the Council attacks us for this, then we stand together," Hana answered, speaking for the first time. "Alone we are vulnerable. Together we are strong. The Council rules through fear. We will show there is another way." The debate lasted 3 days. Details were argued, refined, and agreed upon. Each species contributed ideas from their own culture. The resulting charter was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. A true democracy where decisions required consensus, not just majority rule, where the smallest voice carried the same weight as the largest. On the 4th day, all 18 species signed the charter. They called themselves the Free Worlds Coalition. The name was a statement and a promise. Free from council control, free to determine their own futures, free to help each other as partners, not subjects and rulers. News of the coalition reached Nexus Prime within hours. Chancellor Vex called an emergency session of the council. The chamber filled with anger and fear. "This is rebellion," the Vrix delegate hissed. "These species have violated their agreements with the council. We must respond with force immediately." "Economic sanctions first," the Lumen representative suggested. "Cut off their trade. Deny them access to council markets. They will collapse without our support." Chancellor Vex nodded. "Agreed. Effective immediately. All trade with coalition members is forbidden. Any species that continues contact will face the same restrictions. We will isolate them until they beg to return." But the sanctions had the opposite effect. Coalition members simply traded with each other. Human technology combined with Sylvan resources and drifter navigation created new economic networks. The Melodian communication systems allowed instant coordination. Species that had struggled under council taxes now thrived through cooperation. More species watched and wondered. If the coalition could succeed, maybe others could join. Maybe the council's power was not as absolute as everyone believed. 3 months after the coalition formed, Chancellor Vex made a fatal mistake. He needed to demonstrate council power to show that rebellion would not be tolerated. He chose the Sylvans as his example. The Vrix fleet received orders to destroy a Sylvan settlement. Not the homeworld, that would be too obvious, but a colony with 50,000 inhabitants, enough to send a message, enough to break the coalition's spirit. The Vrix fleet jumped into the system 4 days later. 20 warships against a peaceful forest world. The commander broadcast a final warning. The Sylvans had 1 hour to renounce the coalition or face destruction. The Sylvans sent their response immediately. They would not abandon their friends. They would face death with dignity. The Vrix commander began his attack countdown. 50 minutes, 40, 30. Then space twisted, and 12 human ships appeared between the Vrix fleet and the planet. Hana opened a channel to the Vrix commander. Her voice was calm and absolutely certain. "This world is under coalition protection. Any attack on them is an attack on all of us. You have 1 chance to withdraw peacefully." The Vrix commander laughed. 12 ships against 20? You cannot be serious." "We are deadly serious," Hana replied. "Leave now or learn why humanity refused to stay in its cage." The Vrix commander was too proud to back down. "All ships destroy the humans first. Then we will finish our original mission." The battle was brief and decisive. The Vrix opened fire with everything they had, but human ships phased through the attacks using quantum displacement. They appeared behind enemy vessels, targeting engines and weapons with precise strikes. The Sylvan defense network, enhanced by human technology, jammed Vrix sensors and disrupted their coordination. Drifter ships arrived moments later, having been called by the Melodian communication network and surrounded the Vrix fleet. Within an hour, 5 Vrix ships were disabled. The others found themselves outmaneuvered, outgunned, and outnumbered. The Vrix commander, his pride shattered, ordered a retreat. As the Vrix fleet limped away, Hana broadcast a message that would reach every corner of the galaxy. The Free Worlds Coalition does not seek war, but we will defend our members with everything we have. Any species that attacks one of us attacks all of us. This is our promise and our warning. On Nexus Prime, Chancellor Vex watched the recordings in silence. Chancellor Vex stared at the numbers on his display and felt something he had not experienced in his 3 centuries of leadership. Fear. True, deep fear that came from watching power slip away like water through fingers. The Free Worlds Coalition now included 62 species. More than half the Galactic Council's members had either joined the coalition or openly sympathized with it. Trade networks that once flowed through Council-controlled stations now bypassed them entirely. Military forces that once answered Council commands now questioned their orders. The Council chamber, once filled with confident voices, now echoed with arguments and accusations. The Thorians demanded total war. The Vrix wanted to hunt down coalition leadership and execute them as examples. But other members hesitated, seeing the numbers and understanding what total war would mean. The Mindari representative rose, her telepathic presence washing over the assembly. "I will speak a truth that none of you wish to hear," she said quietly. "We have already lost. Not militarily, though that may come. We have lost the battle for hearts and minds. The humans showed other species that our authority is not natural law. It is a choice, and they are choosing differently. Then we make the choice clear," the Thorian delegate thundered. "Join us or die. Simple." The Lumen representative flashed calculation patterns across their crystalline surface. "I have run the numbers 12,000 times," they announced. "Total war has 3 possible outcomes. First, we lose completely, and the coalition replaces us. Second, we win but destroy so much that galactic civilization collapses into chaos. Third, we fight to mutual destruction and nobody wins. There is a 4th option," the Lumen continued. "Negotiation. We acknowledge that the old order must change. We seek a place in the new order rather than trying to prevent it. We adapt, or we perish." The chamber erupted in angry shouts. Negotiate with rebels? Acknowledge defeat? Impossible. Unthinkable. Chancellor Vex listened to the chaos and made his decision. Pride had brought them here. Pride would not save them. "Silence," he commanded, his voice cutting through the noise. "The Lumen speaks truth. We can choose destruction or adaptation. I choose to ensure our species survive to see tomorrow. I will open negotiations with the Coalition." The message reached Freedom Station 3 days later. The Galactic Council requested formal negotiations with the Free Worlds Coalition. Ambassador Taeyang read it twice, hardly believing the words. He called a coalition assembly immediately. Representatives from all 62 members gathered via hologram, their images filling the Great Hall. "The Council wants to negotiate," Taeyang announced. "We must decide how to respond." The Vrix representative, speaking for former council members who had defected, hissed angrily. "It is a trap. They will promise peace and then attack when we lower our guard. We should refuse." But the Sylvan elder spoke softly. "Refusing negotiation makes us no better than they were. We said we wanted a different way. This is our chance to prove it." Hana stood. "I am a soldier. I think in terms of tactics and strategy. And strategically, negotiation is our best option. We have momentum, but we are not invincible. If the Council commits fully to war, people will die. Maybe we win eventually, but at what cost?" Captain Rethan of the Drifters added his voice. "We have fought for the right to choose our own path. The Council now asks to talk rather than fight. If we refuse, are we not taking away their choice? The choice we demanded for ourselves?" The debate lasted hours, but the conclusion was inevitable. The coalition voted to accept negotiations. Taeyang would lead their delegation. The location would be neutral territory. and the goal would be nothing less than reshaping galactic civilization. The summit took place on a small station orbiting a star that belonged to no one. It was ancient, built by a species long vanished. The perfect neutral ground. Taeyang arrived with a small delegation, Hana for security, Minho for technical expertise, representatives from the Sylvans, Drifters, Melodians, and others. All species that had been ignored by the Council now sat as equals at the negotiating table. Chancellor Vex led the Council delegation. He looked older, the weight of recent events showing in his posture. With him came representatives of the major Council powers, though their delegation was smaller than Taeyang expected. Many Council members had sent observers instead of full representatives. They were hedging their bets. The first week focused on establishing ground rules. The second week dealt with grievances, each side presenting their complaints. The Council accused the Coalition of rebellion and destabilizing galactic order. The Coalition presented evidence of Council neglect, abuse of power, and suppression of smaller species. By the third week, they began discussing the future. This was the hard part. The Council wanted to maintain their authority. The Coalition refused to accept continued subordination. How could these positions be reconciled? Taeyang proposed a radical solution. "We abolish the Council as it exists," he said calmly, "and we create something new. A democratic federation where every species has voice and vote, where decisions require majority agreement, not just the will of the powerful, where membership brings benefits but also responsibilities to all members equally." The Thorian delegate slammed his fist on the table. "You ask us to give up everything we built, to become equals with species who contributed nothing to galactic civilization." The Sylvan elder responded gently but firmly. "You built your civilization on our backs. You took our resources and gave us scraps. You call it contribution. We call it exploitation. True civilization is measured not by what the powerful achieve, but by how they treat the powerless." Day after day, argument after argument, slowly a framework emerged. The Council species would not lose their worlds or their sovereignty, but they would no longer have special privileges. All species would pay the same taxes, receive the same protections, have the same rights. Technology would be shared through a central academy open to all. Military forces would serve the Federation collectively, not individual power bases. The negotiations took 3 months. There were moments when everything nearly collapsed. Times when delegates walked out in anger. Occasions when war seemed more likely than peace. But always they came back to the table, because the alternative was too terrible to accept. Finally, a charter was drafted. The Galactic Federation would replace the Galactic Council. 147 species signed as founding members, combining the coalition with those council members willing to join the new order. The document was imperfect, full of compromises that satisfied no one completely, but it was a beginning. 5 years after Earth's rejection, Taeyang stood once again in the great chamber of Nexus Prime. But everything had changed. The throne, where Chancellor Vex once sat, was gone, replaced by a circular platform where all voices carried equal weight. The chamber that had mocked humanity now hosted the signing ceremony for galactic transformation. President Daiho attended via hologram, his image projected alongside other leaders. He was older now, his term as president ending in a few months. But he had lived to see this moment. 5 years ago, my delegation stood here in shame. Daiho said to the assembled species, "You told us we were not worthy, that we should hide in our corner of space and leave galactic affairs to our betters. You were wrong. Not because humans are special, but because no one deserves to be dismissed without being heard." He paused, looking at the faces of beings from across the galaxy. "Today we create something new. Not perfect, not without challenges, but better than what came before. A federation where every voice matters, where the strong protect the weak not for profit, but because it is right. Where we face the future together as partners, not as masters and servants." The signing took hours. Each species came forward to add their name to the charter. Former council members stood beside former coalition rebels, predators and prey, warriors and artists. all agreeing to try something that had never been attempted at this scale. When the last signature was added, the chamber erupted in celebration. The Melodians performed a symphony that incorporated sounds from 30 different species. The Sylvans released seeds that would grow into trees on worlds across the galaxy, living symbols of the new beginning. Even the Thorians, proud and stubborn, acknowledged the historic moment with deep bows of respect. The celebration lasted 3 days. Ships from member species arrived in orbit, their crews mixing in ways that would have been unthinkable years before. Markets opened where species traded goods and ideas. Artists collaborated on projects that merged different cultural expressions. Scientists shared research that had been kept secret under the old system. On the final night, Taeyang stood on an observation deck watching ships come and go. Hana joined him, now a full admiral commanding the Federation Defense Forces. "Do you think it will last?" she asked quietly. Taeyang smiled. "Nothing lasts forever, but we gave it a chance. That is all we can do. Build something good and hope that those who come after us will protect it." Hana nodded. 5 years ago, I wanted to fight them, to prove we were stronger. Now I am glad we did more than win. We changed them, changed everything. We showed them another way was possible, Taeyang agreed. Sometimes that is the greatest victory. Back on Earth, Jiwon watched the celebrations from her office in Geneva. "Shh,"